Hello and welcome to this overview of Week 1 and Introduction to Week 1. You'll find the material that you're responsible for, slides listed there and in Week 1 in your folder. So you'll find those there and refer to that as far as what you're supposed to study in terms of slides. In this overview of Week 1, you're going to be studying the origins of Baptist, about where Baptist came from. You'll be surprised, I think, to find out that the modern Baptist movement is a fairly new movement, a movement of only about 400 years, actually. But there's different theories about the origins of Baptist. You'll study, first of all, I want you to be aware of, studying the historical background to Baptist, the conditions there in Great Britain and England, and even in Europe, that contributed to the rise of the Baptist movement, what the historical setting was. So be sure you study that and are aware of that. You'll learn about the two groups of Baptists, the General Baptist and Particular Baptist. I want you to know who they were, when they started, and what they believed, what the distinctions were between General Baptist and Particular Baptist, particularly that there were two groups of early Baptists. I want you to be aware of the men who founded those movements. I want you to be aware of the first Baptist church that was founded in modern history, founded by John Smith in Holland in 1609. Be aware of that and know that. And the first English Baptist church founded on English soil, founded by Thomas Elwes in the year 1612, there just outside of London. I want you to be aware of that. You'll be responsible for that. Also, as you study the religious setting of England, I want you to be aware of how Henry VIII played a part in the setting of the Baptist movement being established there in Great Britain. Be aware of what Henry VIII did in history, particularly in 1634, the act that he had passed that created a setting there in England that would give rise to the Baptist movement. Be aware of that and be familiar with Henry VIII. Be aware of his son Henry VI and how Henry VI contributed to a spiritual Protestant environment there in England, which helped give rise to the Baptist. Be aware of Mary Tudor, Bloody Mary, how she hurt and checked the Baptist movement or the spiritual movement leading up to the Baptist movement for a while. Be aware of her. Be aware of Queen Elizabeth and what her approach was toward those that would be the setting that would be for the Baptist. And I want you to be aware of Puritanism and separatism and how those two movements spawned and gave rise to the modern Baptist movement. You'll see there in your study of Baptist history how that Henry VIII broke with the Roman Catholic Church. That created a setting of an independent type church there in England. Still very Catholic, still very traditional, but within that Church of England that Henry VIII created, there arose a movement called Puritanism of evangelicals that attempted to purify the church there in England. And within that movement of Puritanism, there were a group of men that realized that that movement wasn't going to change the Church of England, and so they became what's called separatist, and they separated out of the Puritan movement and established their own independent what became known as separatist churches. Be aware of that movement. And it was out of the separatist movement that the modern Baptist churches were born, out of separatist churches and out of separatist leaders. So be aware of that in your studies and know that. Be aware of the men that were involved, the churches that were involved. Be aware of some other churches that contributed to it, how that Holland played a part in the establishment of modern Baptist, and how that separatists immigrated there and lived there for a period, and how the modern Baptist church was established there in Holland. Be aware of that, know that in your study. I also want you to be aware of what General Baptist believed. Be aware also of what Particular Baptist believed, as far as what they believed and taught, in those distinctions between General and Particular Baptist. And be aware of Baptist leaders like Henry Jacob, early Baptist leaders. Be aware also of the doctrinal issues involving Baptists. Why did Baptists become Baptist? What were the doctrinal issues involved? The main issue that distinguished Baptists from other believers was the issue of baptism. And I want you to be aware there in your study of Week 1 of the issue of baptism, the issue of infant baptism, the issue of mode of baptism, how that became a distinctive that defined Baptist as distinct from other groups, Christian groups, even from the separatists. So be aware of that, study that. Be aware of the early historical confessions. Know those, such as the Baptist Confession of 1644, the Standard Baptist Confession of 1660. These are very important historic expressions of early Baptist belief and faith and practice. Be aware of those and what was significant about those confessions. Also, very important to know the theories of origins of Baptists. Know the 4 theories of Baptist origins. Not everyone agrees where Baptists came from. There are 4 distinct theories of Baptist origins. We have the theory that Baptists arose from English separatism. We have the theory that Baptists arose from Anabaptist. The theory also that Baptists arose from a New Testament continuation of teachings. And then we have the successionist view, which teaches that Baptists are a continuation, a succession of Baptist churches that were established in the days of John the Baptist and the days of Christ and continue all the way to this day. So there's disagreement over when Baptists started and where they came from. But I want you to be aware of those views and be aware of the correct historical view of where Baptists originated. So be familiar with those. Be aware also of what Baptists believe and what makes Baptists distinctive. Thank you very much.